Okay, Vern, you can go ahead.
All righty. Well, welcome. Good evening. The reason I have the very first, my name is Vern Fish. I get to be the president of the Friends of Wabakimi for a little bit longer. And the reason I have this first slide on is from our photo contest from last year. And what I would hope you do is if you have some slides you'd like to, or some videos you'd like to enter, that we have our this year contest ends on October 31st, and I'll have a little more information, but I will hopefully you will want to send your slides in so we can you can get credit for them and we can use them, and you'll see several of these slides throughout the presentation. So our program tonight is the Schultz Trail Cleanup, and I would like to emphasize that this isn't the only presentation we have. This is the first one. We also have one on the Caribou Survey Project, which is on November 23rd, and that'll be with Kate Prince, our program manager. We also have a general membership meeting discussion, and the chair, Brian, not Brain Beanie, but Brian anyway, we'll be talking about where we're going to do the annual membership meeting. Traditionally, we've done it in a hotel, either in Toronto or in Madison, but this year we're going to take it north and maybe go all the way to Armstrong. So we're going to give you a little more input and feedback, and let you get a better sense of what's going to happen, because you may want to plan your June trip around the annual general membership meeting. We also are going to do a presentation on a couple of trips that some of the board members have done in the Wabakimi area. And we're also going to be at numerous outdoor adventure shows, of which a couple are in Ontario and a couple of them are on this side. Actually, three of them are in Ontario, and we got two on this side of the border. And I'll throw these things up at the end of the program so you can take a closer note of it. But with that said, what I want to do is talk about Schultz's trail cleanup. And I know that we have Al on the call. Al, you can wave there. Hopefully Joe's out there, and MJ, you may need to let Joe have access to the mic so he can chime in. Are you there, Joe? Maybe he's not there. I can't see all the names. And we also have Jake, and I know Jake is right there, and so Jake will be talking a little bit more from the park side of it. But this was a cooperative effort between the Friends of Wabakimi and the Wabakimi Park and Ontario Parks, and so we've got Jake here representing the Wabakimi staff. So with that said, I'm just going to do a real quick, because we may have some people on the call that don't know where Wabakimi is at. There it is, but where is that? Well, there's the Boundary Waters, there's Quetico, there's Polar Bear, which is the largest provincial park. Wabakimi is the second largest. There's Thunder Bay, there's Armstrong. And what's really important to know is where the Canadian National Railroad is at, because that plays a key role in the Schultz Trail cleanup. So let's take a little closer look here. Here's a map of the park, of the area. There's Wabakimi, there's Armstrong, and more importantly, there's the Canadian National Railroad. So if we get a little closer to that, where we were working is west of Armstrong. Yeah, you really can't see much with this map. So let's look at this map. Oh, there it is. There's Schultz's Trail. Basically, what Schultz's Trail does is connect the railroad right away to one of the lakes, which allows you to either enter the park or exit the park from the railroad right away. And the reason we got into this is that there was a lot of garbage on that right of way, on that trail, on that portage. It's been there a long time, and I'm going to let Jake talk a little bit about it here. But there's abandoned structures, a lot of broken glass, fragments. It was visually an eyesore. I know the park staff had talked about it for a few years, and the problem was you can't get the garbage out by rail. They won't let you load the train, and so the only way to get it out is to fly it out, and the park staff doesn't have a plane. And so basically what we did was help raise enough money so that they could afford to have an otter, not a beaver, but an otter, come in and do the cleanup. Now, this is something we've done on other projects. This is Evan McCall, the assistant superintendent, and we've helped them with money to provide cash to buy a plane, to rent a plane so they can haul garbage out at other sites. But we're also doing this in partnership with Wabakimi Canoe Outfitters and Lodge, and that's Bruce Heyer and Margaret. And what they provided was the boats, one of their lodges, a place to stay, and more importantly, a place for the plane to land. So, Jake, just a second or two, if you could tell us from your viewpoint as a park manager, introduce yourself, you give them your title, and tell us a little bit why this project was important to you and the park staff.
Yeah, thank you, Vern. Happy to be here. So, my name's Jake Guggenheimer. I've been with Ontario Parks for I think 8 or 9 years now. But I've been at Wabakimi for the past two, three, ending my third year. And it's important. This is Schultz's Trail is one of the access points, like Vern said. And so, you're expecting to go to this beautiful, like, wilderness experience and paddle, and you hop off the train ready for action, and then you're just met with junk. And it's just so it gives a bad first impression of the park. If you're just like crossing through the area, it's kind of junky. Obviously, it doesn't align with our vision of a natural state or a natural area. Um, Now, it has been there for probably, I think it was something more than 30 years. It used to be an old commercial outpost camp. And so people would fly in there and, spend time there, but it's since been abandoned for years and years. So people have gone in there, caused some trouble, and just left their own garbage, left, whatever was there. Um, so yeah, it's been on our to-do list for a long time. We don't have a plane. We can't load it on the train, and we usually only have like two canoe technicians every year. And our main focus is keeping canoe routes open for the paddlers that want to come visit the park. So yeah, it was awesome that we finally got this done with collaboration with the friends and with Wabakimi Eco Lodge. What am I missing here, Vern? I've been
No, you
rambling a
got
bit.
it. And hang on, I'm going
Okay,
to give you some more to talk about here in a second. Let me move forward here.
perfect.
All right. So as Jake said, it's all about the train, and it's a way to get in and out of the park. It's kind of unique. There aren't very many wilderness areas that you access by train. And here are some of the people that were involved. And Joe is one of the volunteers. Al is on the call. He's one of the volunteers. Tell us about the other two people in this photo, and maybe I got the names right with the right people. So tell us about these two gals.
Uh, so the names are actually going to be flipped.
Okay, here I go.
That's okay. River Miller is the person in the hat there, on the far left side. They work for Wabakimi Provincial Park this year as a canoe technician. Um, and yeah, so that was kind of where they were based out of all summer, cutting trails and helping out with various other backcountry tasks. Um, and then Valkyrie Watts is the smaller person there in the bandana. Um, and she was a resource steward, which is essentially just like a backcountry kind of maintenance person. But she worked for the entire Northwest Zone. So that's from the border of Manitoba to essentially like Sault Ste. Marie, Ontario, basically, and all the way up. So um, she was helping us out on this trip. She's been in parks for 2 years, and I believe River's first year, or it was River's first year. Um, and yeah, so it was great to get them both out in the park. Um, neither of them had before this season. Neither of them had been to Wabakimi or yeah, or been on the Via Rail, I guess, either. So it was a lot of firsts.
Well, the thing that always amazes me is how few people you have to manage such a huge area. That one of those first slides where I pointed out that Polar Bear Provincial is the largest park in the Ontario system. Wabakimi is the second largest system. And how many people do you usually have working for you, Jake, or working with you?
The largest I've ever seen in our staff at one time was, I think, 8 people, and like three of those people being, superintendents, more administrative, like dealing with the forms and the rules and stuff, not on the ground people. So yeah. usually about two to four people actually in the park on the ground cutting, maintaining the physical landscape.
So there are times when you can use volunteers, and but the challenge is it's always tough to use volunteers to coordinate them, to deal with liability, and you had to jump through some hoops. The volunteers had to jump through some hoops to get there. And so with that said, let me point out the rest of the crew here. This is Dave Thomas, and is Dave on the call? MJ, can you see? I can't remember if he said he was going to make it or not.
Wait,
Yeah, I'm
wait.
here.
There you go.
Yes.
There's
Present.
Dave's
Dave.
driving. All right. Keep your hands on the wheel, Dave. Okay. And
Now,
then, as I
what's on the
said,
call also, Vern?
there you
My,
go. And,
my wife's
and,
driving.
is Joe there? Okay.
I'm
Joe
here.
is-
So Joe, why don't you take a few seconds and tell us about your partners in this, the other volunteers, what your experience and why you did it and what was involved.
Well, I guess I did it because I just wanted to be of service. I've been going and visiting Ontario parks for most of my life. And, around home, I like to volunteer and clean stuff up and make things better than how I found it. And so when I had this opportunity, I went ahead and signed up. Can I let David
let
and
Al talk.
Al-
Go ahead, let Al talk. I'll drag you in
Yeah.
some more here. Al, are you available? Can you talk?
We're
Yeah.
not hearing you now.
Al, we can't hear you. You aren't muted, but we can't hear you.
Okay, now?
There
Yeah.
you go.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, I've never been to Wabakimi, and when I found out about the volunteer Schultz Trail cleanup, it sounded like a nice way to get out there and then do some good, and then I did a short little trip afterwards. So yeah, it was a nice introduction.
All right. Well, I'm going to tell a little bit more of what you did, and then you guys can fill in the gaps of what I get wrong here. So I've already got the girls' names wrong, so that's my first mistake. We'll keep track of the rest of them as we go. So bear with me here. I only have a handful of photos of what Schultz's Trail looks like, but it's basically, as Jake said, it was an outpost cabin at one point that hadn't been maintained for a long time, and we all know what happens to cabins if they're left for too long. They start to fall apart. And then having been a resource manager myself, the first thing, well, and then the other piece of it is these cabins kind of form the boundary of the railroad right of way in the park. And as Jake said, it's not a good first impression. And again, having been a resource manager, the thing I learned is that garbage brings and breeds more garbage. And if you keep an area clean, it tends to stay clean. If you ignore it, it gets worse. And I know that it was a sore point for the park staff, and I love your enthusiasm, Jake. I think there's no shortage of enthusiasm, but this literally is the park boundary, and that's what people see when they come in. So, and again, as I noted, you can bring stuff in on the train, but you can't take stuff out. And so, as Jake noted, the only way to get anything out of there was by an otter, which is not cheap to fly. The park doesn't have one. And so that's what we really paid for with the donations. But then the other thing, as we pointed out, Jake doesn't have a lot of staff. And so having another 3 bodies out there makes this a doable project. And so I'm going to summarize here, and then I'm going to have Al and the other volunteers kind of talk about it. But basically what they did was they gathered all the garbage up. But you can't land a plane here at Schultz's Landing. So you put it in the boat that the Eco Lodge provided. You go out to the lodge. Now you've got a place to pile up all the garbage and where a plane can land. And this is actually on Bruce Heyer's property. And then the plane takes it from there. So now that's a quick my quick version of it. Al and Joe, why don't you talk about what you actually did as far as the pickup and the cleanup?
Do you want to go, Al?
You go first.
Okay. Well, I guess we cleaned out the cabins, and it really probably only took us a day and a half, or at the most 2 days to clean out the cabins. There was a little bit of everything in there. It looked like there were even some like luggage that made it off the train at some point in the last, 40 years that, wasn't supposed to be offloaded from the train. And it also looked like a lot of people, that may have brought garbage from one of the other cabins that are close or out in the park and found out that they couldn't get rid of it on the train or take it out on the train and then just left it there. One of the guess disappointing things about it is we thought that we were done because we had the cabins mostly cleaned out, and River was down over the little ledge to the east there, and she said, we're not done. And there was a whole bunch more garbage down there in the small trees, coats, sleeping bags, lots of food stuff. And some of it, was like smashed tin cans in a bag, but had been there for so long that the bag had disintegrated. So somebody really intended to take it out, but there just wasn't any way to do it. So Al, you got something else to add?
Well, yes, and like everything was bagged up, and then we had to carry it or haul it. What, maybe half a kilometer? Would that be fair?
At least a couple hundred yards. Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm not sure how that
And,
translates
About
into
half a
kilometers.
and then
kilometer or so.
down the slope and into the boats and then off the boats and yeah. So,
It
We-
looks
we
like
weren't
Dave's
really-
got something to add to that. Can we get Dave on?
Yeah, I'm settled here now, safely parked, and so I can throw in my 2 cents. I actually measured it on the map, and it was about a quarter of a mile. I don't know what the hell that is in kilometers, but that's the fun of being in Canada. You can argue about that stuff.
well,
Was it
yeah, quarter of a
mackerel?
mile
Was it
would be
pickerel
400
or
meters.
was it
But half a
pickerel or walleye we had for dinner?
Oh, don't start this argument.
Oh, well, anyway, so we had to haul all this stuff. So there were about at least 60 pieces. You see those mattresses and the barrels. We had to haul those about maybe 50 yards up to the railroad tracks, then a quarter of a mile down the railroad tracks to the to where the boat could land, and then carry it down. I don't know, what was it, about 30 to 50 feet down the hill. So it was quite a lot of work. But
Pretty steep
so
hill.
the 6 of us, each would have made at least 10 trips. So it was, I was really, being one of the elders on the trip, was appreciative that they let me carry some of the lighter bags. So, and I wanted to comment on something that we discussed in our meeting earlier, Vern, and that is that you mentioned sometimes the fundraising might have to go to hiring contractors. And I really think there's a benefit to at least Joe and Al and I, felt really privileged to be able to come out there and do the work. And if there's any way you can involve volunteers, I think it really helps.
Well,
I really-
maybe I can kind of put Jake on the spot and kind of talk about from your end the challenge of using volunteers, and just kind of give us your because we've talked about this with the park staff at various times, but I'll let Jake describe it from his end.
Yeah, I think in this situation, I would have to agree with Dave that volunteers, it was a privilege to work with you guys and to actually get out on the land and help make Wabakimi a better place. And I think if the project, a future project is compatible with having Friends of Wabakimi volunteers, and I would strongly encourage that. Something like this is a good example. Cleanups are usually a pretty safe bet. something like canoe maintenance where we're gonna just, I don't think we would ever give like volunteers like chainsaws and just send you off, because as canoe technicians and government employees, we do have to do quite a bit of training before they send us off to go portage, clear, and everything like that. But yeah, certainly I would like to see, and I'm just a guy, I just work here, but I would certainly like to see volunteer and Wabakimi collaborations in the future. Yeah.
But there are some places where it works, and then there's some other places where it doesn't work. To be honest, the train made it fairly convenient because it's relatively simple to that short distance to get people in. But if you got to fly people in great distances, it gets a little more complicated. But yeah, that's always been our intent, to try and involve volunteers, recognizing there's as the volunteers know, there's some paperwork involved. The park has to go through some hoops, and we have to go through some hoops, and that's part of the reason we have liability insurance and some other things to go with it. But I agree with Dave. If we can get volunteers, it's the best, because you're walking away with a great experience, and you're going to share it with others. And let me ask the three volunteers: had any of you been to Schultz's Crossing before?
No.
Not me.
No, first time to Wabakimi, and
Yeah. So
I
I
work there, and I haven't even been there until this
Yeah.
trip.
Yeah, and I've only been by on the train. I've never stopped. So that's, I think there's real value in an area that's as big as Wabakimi, is to give people those experiences, because there's a lot to see there, and this is just one little tiny corner that now looks a little better. So bear with me here. I've totally forgot where I'm going. Oh, well, and then the next step, and Jake can talk about this a little bit more. You jammed it all on the plane, right, Jake?
Yeah.
And did it
that
all
was a
fit?
sardine. It almost all fit. Now, yeah, that's a good visual to have up. Normally you can fit, I think, about 10 to 12 people on an otter. If you have a phone on you right now, feel free to Google the interior of an otter real quick, because you'll see that I'm at the back of the plane, and truly there's garbage touching my feet, and it is to the roof. Like, we packed it as tight as we could, and we still had, I think, 6 bags and a mattress left over, that we went back for. The people who we hired the plane with went back and just picked it up, since they knew where it was. They were very nice to do that. But yeah, we almost made it all fit. And I've been in a lot of float planes taking off before, and this takeoff took a little longer to get up to speed and in the air. I was a little worried at first, but yeah, you can see the ropes.
It was actually two flights in and out to make it, to get it all out. Is that correct?
Yeah. They filled up the 6 bags. I think they just put in a Beaver, the smaller plane. They had just dropped off some canoe technicians not too far from there, so they stopped in when they were empty and just loaded them up. But yeah, so it was a lot of garbage, because like an otter is kind of the biggest plane you can get reasonably on a lake, like a float plane wise. So to have that thing right full, and then the floats also had some stuff in them.
So Joe was talking about the cabins, and this is the after photo. I don't know if I had a photo of the before photo. I mean, that doesn't look real good, but it's a lot better than it looked when you got there, right, guys?
Absolutely.
Yeah, there was about 6 inches to a foot of garbage solidly across the whole floor of the cabin. I know that Al had a pretty good before picture of this cabin, especially. But yeah, it was nasty.
Jake, I'm going to put you on a spot, and you can bail out if you want, but can you tell us what the future holds for these cabins, or is that above your pay grade?
It's certainly above my pay grade, Vern.
Okay, they're there.
They were closed up. Like, I mean, if someone really wanted to get in, they could, rip the boards off or break a window or something like that. But we have boarded them up. to some degree. So your average person won't be able to go in there and cause a ruckus or toss their stolen suitcase or whatever other garbage they have. Um, so yeah, and yeah,
Well,
it's certainly a lot better.
and maybe if I can get you to, maybe I'm diving off into a legal deep end, I'll get myself in trouble. But one of the things, as I understand, and you'll correct me if I'm wrong, is that you have land use permits. They're fairly lengthy in time frame, and you're kind of legally bound. You can't just go in and tear down a cabin or burn down a cabin until you've established who has the land use permit and you've given them an opportunity to come in and clean it up. Am I even close as to what the legal steps are to do this?
Yeah, you've got some stuff right. It might be a little dated. Um, Historically, the province did give sometimes it was leases for like 100 years if you were just if you're looking for like a private recreation camp, like a cottage or something like that. In more recent years, I think we normally offer 5 or 10 year like periods where we have a land use permit for commercial outpost, like any of the camps that are currently active in Wabakimi. They're on a 5 or 10 year cycle, and they have to reapply in that time and pay their fees and whatever. Schultz's trail expired quite a while ago. It was probably like a 30-year period or something like that. It was still pretty lengthy in time. I can't remember if it's like been given back to the crown, like the government yet. It may be actual park property at this point. But don't quote me on that.
Yeah, I don't. I don't want
And
to
even if it is, we've also since moved away from like burning down cabins and stuff. Not always a good look, can be kind of dangerous, especially with the drier summers and seasons that we've been having. So it's above my pay grade. I don't know what's going to happen to the site in the future, but I can tell you it looks so much tidier, and yeah, it's in a
Okay.
good
All right.
state.
Well, and I guess all I'm trying to say is it's not a simple thing to make a cabin disappear, but at least
No.
we can clean up some of the dangerous stuff that was in it.
Yes.
Fuel barrels and broken glass everywhere.
So
Yeah,
I'm
that's
going to
me.
put Jake and the volunteers on the witness stand here. Questions and comments for the volunteers or Jake. And I'm not sure how. I guess we'll have to do raised hands, and MJ will have to release them so they can ask questions.
Also, there is one in the chat. So if you want to put your questions in the chat, that's fine too.
Okay.
I've got it
okay.
open now, so I can see questions coming in the chat as well.
Very good.
Um,
Okay, so Robert's question.
Yeah, Robert asked, is there a plan for the long-term maintenance of the landing? Sounds like a challenge, and hopefully trash doesn't start accumulating again over time. Robert, I agree. I hope trash doesn't start accumulating over time. Like Vern said, now that it's cleaned up, it should be a little bit better of a spot. A lot of the garbage was there historically. I feel like, I mean, obviously there was still some new stuff, but a bulk of it was left over from the outpost camp days. I'd like to think that our paddlers in the park know better than to just see a pile of garbage and toss their stuff there. But yeah, the long-term maintenance. We do go in there every couple years and start or end canoe trips at that location. It's usually better to start a canoe trip on the train because you never know if it's going to be early or late and you don't want to be stranded for an extra couple days. But anyways, so I'm sure now that it is cleaned up and it's on our radar and is actually kind of nice, it's going to be integrated into the maintenance schedule to go back and ensure that it stays in a tidy, clean state. If there's like a bag of garbage or like a bag's worth of garbage every now and then, that's something that the train's not going to notice if we bring that on. That's just with our luggage. It's just hauling an entire like business worth out on the storage car. That was impossible. But yeah, Um, and obviously we've been without a superintendent, like a manager for a little bit, and without a park plan, but both of those things are hopefully getting finished and or filled soon. And yeah, I'll make sure to bring that up to everyone.
Other questions for Jake?
Ooh, Dave. Um, let's see. As Dan Otto remembers, there are abandoned cabins at 44.1, which is Redhead Lake, Nemo River area. It's a similar site with random detritus. I'm unfamiliar with that site, but if it's a similar situation as Schultz's Trail, then maybe that it certainly could be a future cleanup. Um, that's volunteer Dave that just sent that, right?
Yeah, yeah.
Um,
Former board chair.
Gotcha. Oh yes, of course. Um, do you want to quickly describe like what's there? I'm unfamiliar with the site because I haven't been. Wabakimi is a big place. I haven't been to
Sure.
most of it.
Can you hear me okay?
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah, yes.
Well, there's a similar type portage as that was at Schultz's Trail, and there's 3 or 4 abandoned buildings, and your assistant I can't remember his name right off the top of my head.
Evan?
Evan had posted a letter on the wall of one of them, and apparently some people in I don't know, Kentucky or Ohio or something had title to the spot, and it's clearly hasn't been used for a decade or more. I think there's a water tower there. I remember an abandoned abandoned boat or an abandoned canoe. It doesn't have quite as much crap laying around as Schultz's Trail did. But it definitely is crying out. And there was a dock there in various stages of disrepair, and the place is it's
Use some
that
love.
it needs some LTC. Yeah.
Yeah, then certainly if Evan went in and did a posting on it, that's kind of the first step in one of these, the government procedure.
And we were there in 2022.
Okay.
So 3 years at least.
Okay. Yeah, I'm not super familiar, but if depending on what the posting said, it could just be hey, this is a land use permit and it's kind of junky, please clean it up. And then, a series of follow-ups have to happen with that. But yeah, I'm not too sure. But if it does get to that point, then it could certainly be another rehab mission for us.
I had a second question too.
Shoot.
Why is it you couldn't land a plane on Onamakawash Lake?
Now I know you can. It's kind of like L-shaped and there's not a lot of room. Like if you know the lake really well, which like the folks who have cabins there historically have. But the folks in Armstrong that do our charters are not going to risk their plane on an unfamiliar lake just to clean up some garbage. So and looking at the bay, I don't know if I would want to land a plane there. You'd have to probably land way up the lake and then kind of taxi it into location.
Well, I thought there must have been a boat on the lake that one could use to haul the trash out to a plane, but
Yeah, we didn't.
like a lot of work to haul all that trash a quarter mile down the road.
It did seem that way, but the other factor might have been the dock. Was that an issue? We had access to a dock on Schwabenish Lake.
That makes sense.
Well,
Yeah.
and plus we had an outfitter that was willing to provide the facility. And maybe if I can kind of jump to that just for a second, Joe, can I get you to kind of talk about your accommodations and give credit to Bruce.
Our accommodations were awesome. It made the trip so much better than, you know, fighting the bugs and, you know, having a cabin where we could, you know, sit around the table and play games in the evening and, you know, having access to a shower and everything. It was
Refrigerator.
so nice.
Yeah, a
and,
refrigerator was
and
awesome.
you can, you know, still a cabin that size, if you were sharing it with people that you didn't like, then it might be one thing, but these were all really good people and everybody got along really good. It was like a vacation, even though we worked really hard for part of the day, we still had a lot of fun.
So those were some of the factors that went into why the garbage got hauled where it did and the boat traffic and all that. We had that support from Bruce Heyer, and that made it a lot easier.
Yeah, if I could add too, like if we would have had to have used canoes to haul that,
Oh,
we would have needed an extra 2 days. If we had to go that kind of distance that we did.
mhm.
Yeah, we gave that little motorboat a workout.
Yeah,
And,
we did.
And you mentioned Jake Heyer, but I just wanted to make sure we gave a special shout out to, Bruce Heyer from Wabakimi Outfitters, loaned us those accommodations.
Yeah,
Mhm.
Luxury
it was very nice
accommodations.
and very much appreciated.
Yeah.
Other questions for Jake? Well, I'm gonna kind
Plug
of
the
jump
photo
on to the next
contest.
project. Jake, where is that?
You know, I think that looks maybe like the corner of Little Caribou Access.
Yeah, there we go.
Looking
And
north by the looks of it.
I think this is going to be the next project we're going to work on. And let me try to put this on the map for you. There's Armstrong. There's Armstrong blown up, and I think that's Little Caribou Access. It's one of the few places where you can actually drive to a put-in point and not have to fly in or take a train. And so it's one of those few access. It only really has parking for one. And what are we going to try and do there, Jake?
Oh, we're gonna kind of right in the bottom corner of the screen, which is like right on the corner of the road. I think we're gonna punch in a nice parking lot for, you know, at least 4 to 6 cars and or trucks, so that hopefully more people can feel, you know, can access the park in a reasonable manner. Of the very few drive-in locations that you can paddle into the park, this one is certainly, I think, the closest and the nicest. You know, it's a proper road all the way there. So yeah, it'll be excellent to have right now. And like I said, it's on a corner, so like if you have a canoe on your head and there's a truck flying down, it's just a recipe for disaster. Just like being right on the edge of the road right there. Luckily, knock on wood, nothing terrible has happened to my knowledge, but yeah.
Well, that was some of the feedback we got from local representatives is this is a dangerous corner, and putting a real parking lot in there and getting some of the vehicles off that road will make this for the local travelers a much safer environment.
Mhm.
So this is our next project, and you know we got a lot of details to work out, but we're gonna help. And the park has some money, and we're gonna match your money, and hopefully we can make a better access at Little Caribou. I've kind of jumped ahead here. Let me go through this, and then we'll go back to final questions. Again, the photo contest. If you're gonna get your photos in, you need to do it here pretty soon. And now it's not letting me go. There we go. There we go. There we go. Those are the dates. And MJ, do you want you're the chair of the photo contest. Or is there anything you want to add to this information?
No, it's all there, but we did send out an email to members that included the documents that you need in order to enter. And if for some reason you didn't get that email, you can go to the website and get things there.
Yep, and it's you got a very short period of time.
Mhm.
And whatever, come on. There we go. All right. So like I said, this is our first. The next webinar coming up is with Kate on the Caribou Survey Project, and which has been a very successful partnership with us. And I think you really want to put this on the calendar and listen to Kate. Again, we're going to talk about our where and how we're going to do the annual general membership meeting, and the chair is going to have that discussion, and I'll join him. We're going to do a couple of trip stories in February. And then again, hopefully we'll see you at some of these outdoor adventure shows. Again, they're on both sides of the border. We will probably have a membership gathering at both Toronto and/or Hamilton and Canucopia. It just won't be our formal membership meeting. I've already reserved a room at what is now the new hotel in Madison. It's the Spark. It's not the Clarion, for Sunday morning at 9 o'clock, so that if you're a member of the organization, we can kind of give you an update. It just won't be the formal meeting where we approve all the necessary documentation. So we'll try to get together at these outdoor adventure shows, but the general membership meeting will probably be in the Armstrong area. And so with that, I open up for final comments, questions, inappropriate responses, whatever you got left there. Joe, Al, Dave, anything else you want to add to the discussion?
Just kudos to the Ontario Park staff people. Just an amazing group of people to work with. It was a real honor to do that. And Jake, I still owe River 10
Still
Canadian
owe
dollars.
River $10.
Yeah, I got to mail that. I did. I was just in Winnipeg and I got the cash. I'm going to put it in the mail.
All right.
Heard that. I think I've heard that one before. Al?
Well, I just want to say, you know, they were good. The park staff was great. They took their loss at Trivial Pursuit very well.
That's not what I
wasn't
heard. I
too
heard
bad
Jake
of
is
a-
really competitive, but go ahead.
I am.
But no, I really enjoyed this experience and look forward to, you know, things in the future.
And likewise to the, sorry if I just cut Joe off there before he said something nice about me, but I got to say something nice about you guys, because we literally could not have done it without the wonderful volunteers. You folks really made the trip, and thank you for, you all traveled ridiculously far to come help out for 3 days or whatever, however long it took to clean this site up. So we really do appreciate it. Yeah, thank you.
Do we have anything else in the chat box, MJ?
Nope, we don't.
I'd like to say thank you guys for cleaning everything up, and that's important for wilderness travelers, I believe. So thanks a lot, guys.
You're
No
welcome.
problem, Don.
And Jake, I hope we continue to work with you. I know you've been moved around and you've got a funny title now, and you've got an area the size of Greenland that you're responsible for. But you've been a real pleasure to work with, and I hope our paths cross again and that we can continue to coordinate projects in the Wabakimi area or wherever you end up at.
Yeah, certainly. It's been great, and I'm the pretty face of Wabakimi. I don't think anyone else at the park likes to be on camera too often, so it worked out really well though.
You do a good job, Jake. Thank you very much.
Yeah, no kidding.
With that, I'll unless MJ's got something else in the chat box, I'll call this a successful meeting, and we'll see you later. I think whatever the date was when Kate's going to talk about the Caribou Project in November, and hopefully maybe we'll see some of you at these outdoor adventure shows, whether it be in Madison or Hamilton and Toronto. So put that on your calendar too.
Hey.
MJ, anything to add?
No, but thanks for joining us tonight.
All right.
Good to
Thank
see
you very
you all.
much, everybody. Thank you, Jake.
Thank
you,
you.
guys.
Bye-bye.
All right. I'll let you get to turn off the record, MJ, and figure out how to get it. I don't know. You figure out how to get it on the website.
Yeah, I think I know how to do that, but I think I have to end the whole thing. So is there anything else you need?
Nope, I do not. Thank
Okay,
you.
so I'm gonna end the whole thing. So good night, guys.
Bye-bye.
Bye.